All right, so you're looking to get a grip on this whole covert contract thing and how it all fits in with that red pill perspective.
Yeah.
Especially now when, like everything's changing so fast with families and society and all that.
It's like a different world almost.
It really is. We got a ton of interesting stuff to dig into here.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about masculinity, leadership, spirituality, even ancient warrior philosophies like Spartans and samurai.
It's a pretty wide range.
It is. By the end of this deep dive, you're going to have a much better understanding of all these ideas and how they connect.
I think what's really cool is how these sources weave together these personal stories
Oh, yeah.
with like historical examples and philosophical ideas.
And not just some dry academic thing.
No, not at all. You'll see how personal growth ties into these larger societal shifts and how recognizing your role as a man can actually have an impact on the world around you.
That's a big one. And it's not all just theory either.
Right.
There's a lot of practical advice in here too.
Uh,
We'll get into how things like setting goals, using affirmations, and developing that self-discipline almost like a modern-day Spartan or samurai can really help you build confidence and achieve what you want in life.
And what's particularly relevant, I think, is how the sources emphasize that those traditional masculine skills and values, they're actually super important in today's world, a world that often feels, chaotic and uncertain.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The sources dive deep into this concept of the double bind,
Right.
that pressure men feel to be both strong and vulnerable at the same time.
Absolutely.
It's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll unpack how to navigate those expectations because sometimes they feel totally contradictory.
And this tension that's especially important in the context of relationships.
Okay.
And that's where the idea of covert contracts really comes in.
Now, the sources don't explicitly use that term,
True.
but they explore very similar ideas about these unspoken expectations and how those can lead to resentment if they're not addressed openly.
For sure.
Okay, so we've got this double bind going on, and then we've got these covert contracts kind of lurking in the shadows of our relationships.
Right.
Sounds like things can get pretty messy pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And to make matters even more complex, the sources also point out how these big societal shifts, like the rise of feminism and what they call cultural Marxism,
Right.
have dramatically impacted, institutions and our understanding of traditional roles.
This is something you specifically wanted to explore, right? How these changes connect back to that idea of the covert contract.
Exactly. You see, the sources argue that the decline of traditional family values, things like, the drop in marriage rates, the rise of single-parent households, that's a key part of this shift. And they link this directly to the rise of ideologies that challenge those traditional gender roles.
So are they saying that these changes have made it harder for men to understand what's expected of them in relationships? And that's what's leading to more of these unspoken covert contracts.
That's a big part of it. The sources highlight how the traditional framework, while sometimes seen as outdated,
Right.
it actually provided a clearer sense of roles and responsibilities.
I see.
And without that, it becomes much easier for resentment and misunderstandings to build up.
And it sounds like this isn't just about romantic relationships either.
No.
The sources also talk about the decline of those traditional brotherhoods
Yes.
and the impact that's had on men's support systems.
You're absolutely right. They argue that strong male friendships are crucial, especially in a world that can often feel hostile or dismissive of men's needs.
So it's almost like we've lost this shared sense of purpose and understanding that used to be more common among men.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And the sources provide some fascinating historical examples of brotherhoods,
Oh, yeah.
from the abolitionists to the entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley,
Okay.
showing how these bonds have actually driven positive change throughout history.
So if we're going to unpack these covert contracts
Right.
and figure out how to renegotiate them in a way that actually works for everyone, it sounds like we need to understand how we even got here in the first place.
Right.
It's like we need to trace those historical threads that led to these big societal shifts.
That's a great way to frame it. And the sources offer some really insightful perspectives on that historical journey.
Okay.
They delve into the impact of feminism, what they call cultural Marxism, and that decline of traditional institutions. But they also offer a powerful message of hope and empowerment.
Right. They don't just leave you feeling stuck.
No, they don't.
They provide practical advice on how men can step up, reclaim that authentic masculinity, and even become agents of positive change in the world.
One key aspect they emphasize is spiritual exploration and growth.
Okay.
They argue that in a world that can often feel meaningless or materialistic,
Right.
connecting with something greater than yourself can provide a powerful sense of purpose.
This part really stood out to me.
Yeah.
They suggest that men can find this spiritual clarity through rational inquiry, balancing skepticism with a genuine openness to those spiritual insights.
It's not about blind faith,
No.
but about seeking truth and meaning through critical thinking and personal experience. They even share a story about a man who was initially very skeptical of spirituality, but ended up finding peace and purpose through meditation,
Wow, that's interesting.
after learning about the effects of meditation on the brain.
I see. Okay, so we've got this historical context. We've got the challenges of that double bind and these covert contracts.
Right.
And now we've got this call for spiritual exploration.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious to hear more about the practical advice they offer.
Okay.
You know, those concrete steps men can take to improve their lives and their relationships.
That's where things get even more interesting. The sources offer a wealth of practical tips, drawing inspiration from those ancient warrior philosophies.
Like the Spartans.
Yeah, like the Spartans and samurai. Okay.
They talk about setting goals, using affirmations, developing discipline, and even reclaiming those traditional masculine skills as ways to build confidence and achieve what you want in life.
And how does this tie back into that whole idea of covert contracts?
Well, imagine this. You're feeling lost, lacking direction, maybe even a little resentful in your relationships. By focusing on personal growth and developing your inner strength,
Okay.
you create a more solid foundation for yourself.
I see.
And from that place of strength, you can approach those unspoken expectations
Right.
and renegotiate them in a way that feels more balanced and fulfilling.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like you're saying that personal development is a key part of untangling those covert contracts.
Yes,
And creating more satisfying relationships.
exactly. It's about empowering yourself first, then using that strength to create positive change both in your own life and in the world around you.
This is some pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
I'm already starting to see things in a new light, and we're just getting started.
I know, right? There's so much more to unpack.
We haven't even touched on energy dynamics leadership,
Ooh.
or the specific techniques they offer for managing stress and anxiety.
Hold on, energy dynamics.
Yeah.
That sounds intriguing. What's that all about?
Well, the sources describe these two types of energy, radial and tangential.
Okay.
Radial energy is focused discipline, like a laser beam.
Okay.
Think of it as the energy of action, of achieving goals.
Okay. And what about tangential energy?
Tangential energy is more expansive, creative, like a ripple spreading out.
Okay.
It's the energy of exploration, of connecting with others, of generating new ideas.
So how do these energy dynamics relate to the idea of covert contracts and navigating relationships?
Imagine a man who's constantly radiating energy outward, always focused on achieving, on doing. But his partner, she's more tangential in her energy. She needs connection. She needs space for creativity and emotional expression. If they don't understand these differences, it can create friction. He might feel unappreciated while she feels neglected.
Wow. That's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's like those unspoken expectations become even more charged when we don't understand the different ways we express and receive energy.
Exactly. And the sources offer some fascinating insights into how to balance these energies,
Okay.
both within ourselves and in our relationships.
This is already blowing my mind. I can't wait to dive deeper into these energy dynamics and see how they play out in real life situations. But we're going to have to save that for the next part of our deep dive.
You're right. There's just so much to explore in these sources. It's an incredible journey of discovery.
All right, so before we wrap up this part, let's quickly recap what we've covered so far.
Okay.
We talked about the concept of covert contracts and how they often lead to resentment in relationships. We touched on the double bind men face in trying to balance strength and vulnerability.
Right.
And we explored how those historical shifts, particularly the decline of traditional institutions, have contributed to these challenges.
And we started to unpack the powerful potential of personal transformation, spiritual exploration, and even those ancient warrior philosophies
Yeah.
in navigating these complexities.
This is just the tip of the iceberg, though.
It is.
In the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve deeper into energy dynamics leadership and those specific techniques the sources offer for managing stress, overcoming anxiety, and creating more fulfilling relationships.
We'll also explore some fascinating insights into the nature of suffering, the role of women in society, and the importance of brotherhood in a world that can often feel isolating for men.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue to unpack these powerful ideas and see how they can empower you to live a more authentic and fulfilling life.
Welcome back. Last time we were just starting to unpack those covert contracts and how they play into the challenges men face in today's world.
Yeah, we were just getting to the good stuff, those energy dynamics you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious to learn more about how understanding radial and tangential energy can actually help us navigate relationships and maybe even spot those hidden expectations before they become a problem.
It's a really fascinating concept. Remember, radial energy is that focused, goal-oriented energy.
Right, like a laser beam.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it as the energy of building, achieving, taking action.
Okay.
Tangential energy, on the other hand, is more about connection, creativity, and emotional expression.
So how do these energies actually play out in a relationship?
So let's say a man is very radial in his energy.
Hmm.
He might be hyper-focused on his career, on providing for his family, on solving problems. He might show love through acts of service, through tangible expressions of care.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
But if his partner is more tangential in her energy, she might crave more emotional connection, more open communication, more time spent simply enjoying each other's company.
So he's speaking one language of love and she's speaking another.
Exactly. And this is where those covert contracts can really start to cause problems. He might feel like he's doing everything right, but she might feel neglected or emotionally unfulfilled.
So how do we avoid this kind of clash? Is it about one person changing their energy to match the other?
Not necessarily. The sources emphasize that it's about understanding and appreciating these differences.
Okay.
Recognizing that there's no right or wrong way to express energy. It's about finding a balance that works for both partners.
So instead of trying to change each other, it's more about learning to speak each other's language.
Precisely. And that takes communication. It takes a willingness to be open and vulnerable, to express our needs and expectations clearly. It's about recognizing that we all have different ways of giving and receiving love, and that's okay.
This is making me think about the red pill perspective and how it emphasizes the importance of understanding female nature.
Right.
It seems like understanding these energy dynamics could be a really valuable tool in that regard.
Absolutely. You see, the sources argue that men and women often express these energies differently. Men tend to be more naturally radial, while women tend to be more naturally tangential. Of course, there are always exceptions, but this general pattern can help us understand why men and women sometimes clash.
So it's not about saying one energy is better than the other.
No.
It's about recognizing that these differences exist and that understanding them can help us build stronger, more fulfilling relationships.
Exactly. And this ties back to the idea of covert contracts.
Mm-hmm.
If we can learn to recognize and communicate our energy needs, we can start to break down those unspoken expectations that can lead to resentment.
This is really eye-opening. I'm already starting to see how these energy dynamics play out in my own relationships. But I'm also curious to hear more about what the sources have to say about leadership. You mentioned that they draw inspiration from ancient warrior philosophies like those of the Spartans and samurai.
Yes, they do. And it's really fascinating how they connect these ancient warrior codes to the challenges men face today.
Okay, so what kind of leadership qualities do they emphasize? Is it all about being tough and stoic like a Spartan warrior?
It's more nuanced than that. While they do talk about the importance of discipline, strength, and courage, they also emphasize qualities like integrity, wisdom, and compassion.
So it's not just about physical strength.
Right.
It's about moral strength as well.
Exactly. They argue that true leadership is about serving others, about putting the needs of your family, your community, your people before your own.
That sounds a lot like the concept of servant leadership that's been gaining popularity in recent years.
It is very similar. The sources emphasize that true power comes not from dominance or control, but from humility and a willingness to put others first.
And how does this tie back to the idea of covert contracts and the challenges men face in modern society?
Think about it. If you're constantly trying to prove yourself to be the alpha male to win every argument, you're likely operating from a place of insecurity.
Yeah.
And that insecurity can actually create more covert contract because you're not approaching relationships from a place of genuine strength and self-assurance.
So they're saying that true leadership starts with inner work, with developing your own character and sense of purpose.
Absolutely. They argue that when you're grounded in your values, when you're confident in who you are and what you stand for,
Right.
you don't need to play those games. You can approach relationships with authenticity and integrity, which allows for more open and honest communication.
That's a really powerful message.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying that true leadership is about more than just getting what you want.
Yeah.
It's about becoming the kind of man who inspires trust and respect, who leads by example, and who makes a positive impact on the world.
Exactly. And they offer some really practical advice on how to cultivate those leadership qualities. They talk about the importance of setting clear goals, developing discipline, seeking out mentors, and even embracing failure as a learning opportunity.
This conversation about leadership is making me think about the societal shifts we talked about earlier. The sources seem to be suggesting that men need to step up and reclaim their leadership roles in a world that's becoming increasingly uncertain and chaotic.
Yeah. You're picking up on a key theme here.
Hmm.
They argue that men have a natural inclination towards leadership, but that this inclination has been suppressed in recent decades due to various societal and cultural factors.
So it's not that men are inherently bad leaders, it's that they've been discouraged from embracing their leadership potential.
Exactly. And they argue that this is having a negative impact on society as a whole.
Okay.
They point to the breakdown of families, the rise of crime and violence, and the general sense of moral decay as evidence that we need strong, principled male leadership now more than ever.
Wow, that's a pretty bold statement. Are they saying that men are the solution to all of society's problems?
Not exactly. They acknowledge that both men and women have important roles to play in creating a healthy and thriving society.
Okay.
But they do argue that men have a unique responsibility to step up and lead, to protect and to provide.
I see. So it's about embracing those traditional masculine roles,
Mm-hmm.
but doing so in a way that's aligned with our values and that contributes to the greater good.
Precisely. It's about finding that balance between strength and compassion, between assertiveness and humility. It's about leading with integrity, with a clear sense of purpose, and with a genuine desire to make a positive impact on the world.
This is a lot to take in, but it's also incredibly inspiring. It's like they're giving us a roadmap for becoming the kind of men we were always meant to be.
That's a great way to put it. They're challenging us to step out of our comfort zones, to embrace our full potential, and to become the leaders that our families, our communities, and the world needs us to be.
This is definitely resonating with me.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away with all this talk of leadership, I'm curious to hear more about what the sources have to say about spirituality. You mentioned earlier that they encourage men to seek spiritual clarity through rational inquiry.
Right.
What exactly does that mean?
It's a really interesting approach.
Well-
They're not advocating for blind faith or dogma.
Right.
They're encouraging men to approach spirituality with a critical mind, to ask questions, to explore different traditions, and to find what resonates with them on a personal level.
So it's more about a personal journey of discovery than about following a set of rules or doctrines.
Exactly. They argue that true spirituality is about connecting with something greater than ourselves, whether that's God, the universe, or simply a sense of higher purpose.
And how do they suggest men go about finding that connection?
They offer a variety of practices, from meditation and prayer to spending time in nature and engaging in acts of service.
It sounds like there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
You're right. They emphasize the importance of finding what works for you, of experimenting with different practices, and of being open to the unexpected.
This is making me think about the earlier conversation about energy dynamics.
Uh-huh.
Could exploring spirituality help men to balance their radial and tangential energies?
That's a great connection. The sources suggest that spiritual practices can help us to become more grounded, more centered, and more connected to our emotions.
So it's not just about becoming more spiritual in a religious sense. It's about developing a deeper sense of self-awareness and inner peace.
Exactly. And they argue that this inner peace is essential for navigating the challenges of modern life, for building healthy relationships, and for becoming the kind of leaders that the world needs.
This is really resonating with me. It's like they're saying that true strength comes not just from physical prowess or material success, but from a deep connection to our inner selves and to something greater than ourselves.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And they offer some really inspiring examples of men who have found this kind of strength through their spiritual beatings.
I'm really curious to hear more about those examples.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to have to save that for the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We've covered so much ground already, and I'm eager to hear what else the sources have to say.
You're right. We've only just scratched the surface. There's still so much to explore.
So stay tuned for part 3, where we'll delve deeper into the spiritual dimension of masculinity, the importance of brotherhood, and the practical steps men can take to create a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Okay.
Okay, so we're back for the last part of our deep dive into these sources on masculinity and relationships and all that.
You know, one thing that really struck me about how they talk about spirituality
Yeah.
is it's not about checking things off a list or blindly following some dogma. It's
Yeah.
about actually searching for truth and meaning
Mm-hmm.
in a way that genuinely resonates with you.
Yeah, and they told that story about the guy who was like super skeptical of all that spiritual stuff.
Oh, yeah, he's a real logic-driven guy.
But then he ends up finding all this peace and purpose through meditation.
And he only started meditating after, like, reading those scientific studies about the effects on the brain.
That's so interesting. It's like they're encouraging a mix of skepticism and openness.
Right.
Like you don't throw logic out the window,
Yeah.
but you also don't shut yourself off from new ideas.
Exactly. And they talk about how this kind of exploration can help men find a deeper sense of purpose.
Okay.
And that can be really helpful in navigating those complex relationships and understanding all those unspoken expectations.
Yeah, it's like when you're grounded in your own values and you're clear about who you are, you're less likely to get caught in those games and power struggles that can lead to all that resentment.
That's a huge point. The sources argue that when you have that inner strength and clarity,
Yeah.
you can approach relationships with authenticity and vulnerability.
Right.
And that opens the door for more honest and open communication.
This whole conversation about spirituality is reminding me of something else they talk about.
What's that?
That whole idea of brotherhood.
Yeah.
It seems like having that network of supportive guys around you can also give you that sense of grounding and purpose.
Absolutely.
They talk about how brotherhood can help men overcome challenges, celebrate successes,
Right.
and just create that safe space to be open and vulnerable.
Like iron sharpens iron, right? Exactly. Being around other men who are pushing themselves to be better can be so motivating.
For sure. And they make a really interesting point about how the decline of those traditional brotherhoods has actually contributed to some of the struggles that men are facing today.
That feeling of isolation, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like feeling alone and not having that support system.
It makes sense. They argue that men are wired for connection, camaraderie, shared purpose. And when those things are missing, it can be really tough to navigate all the ups and downs of life.
This makes me think about the whole red pill philosophy
Oh, yeah,
and how it stresses the importance of building a strong male community.
definitely.
It seems like these sources are really on the same page with that.
They are. And they offer some really practical ways for men to start building those connections.
Like what?
They talk about joining groups that share your interests, volunteering, getting involved in your community,
Okay.
even just reaching out to other guys and starting those friendships.
It's like they're saying we don't have to do it all alone.
Right? There's strength in numbers, and there's real power in coming together with other men who share those values and aspirations.
And it's not just about getting support and camaraderie either.
No.
The sources also talk about how brotherhood can actually be a force for positive change in the world.
You know, that's a really interesting point.
Like how so?
They give some historical examples, like the abolitionist movement and the early days of Silicon Valley.
Oh, wow.
These were groups of men who came together with a shared vision, and they ended up making a huge impact.
That's inspiring. It's like when men band together with a purpose and a commitment to each other,
Yeah.
they can really achieve incredible things.
Exactly. And it challenges us to think about how we can apply that in our own lives. How can we use our strengths, our talents, and our resources to make a real difference?
This has been a really incredible deep dive.
It has.
We've covered so much.
We have.
From the ins and outs of covert contracts, to the power of spiritual growth, to the importance of brotherhood.
It's been a journey.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on masculinity and the challenges men face today.
Me too. And you know what's really cool is how all these ideas come back to that central theme of personal transformation.
Exactly.
Huh.
It's not about sitting around and complaining about the world or blaming other people for our problems.
Right.
It's about taking responsibility for our lives, our choices, our growth.
Exactly. And these sources offer a real roadmap for that journey. They're packed with practical advice, inspiring stories, and thought-provoking insights that can help us become the best versions of ourselves.
I have a feeling we'll be thinking about these ideas for a long time.
I know I will. And, you know, if anyone listening wants to really dive deep into all of this,
Yeah.
it's actually all available in a book.
Oh, that's right. I almost forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
You can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
It's definitely worth checking out.
For sure, if you're ready to take that next step on your own journey.
It's an amazing resource for anyone who wants to understand themselves better, build stronger relationships, and make a positive impact.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive for today.
It does.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep seeking truth, keep growing, and keep striving to be the best version of yourself.